Record. All right. So I am so excited. I want to introduce you guys to LJ Bunker, who is amazing. And I love watching someone's career get lit on fire. And sometimes when this happens, you think, how did it happen? And with LJ, it was a wonderful thing to watch. So I'm just showing where he is right now. And he is number one in his office, number eight in the state, 42 nationwide by adjusted gross closed commission, and then by number of units, he's second in the state. So he's doing something right here.
Wow.
And I'm kind of excited to have him share, how he got his success. So let me just pin you, LJ. And, uh, you know, we talked a lot, and I'm, excited to ha have you share with these guys. I think what they're looking for is when you first started, you know, I know the market was different, but you were able to take advantage of opportunities and, really go for every single opportunity that came your way. So you want to just share your story a little bit and then we'll ask
Yes,
questions?
sure. Yeah, so I think like at the beginning, one of the most challenging things is like just trying to find opportunities, right? And um, so I know Jody's husband Tom is on this, and Tom will know like all about what I'm about to talk about. But when I started, like one of the first things that I was introduced to was just like prospecting and what that was, and all the different like avenues, because there are many. We had a Mike Ferry coach with the company who used to teach a class um, weekly, every Wednesday night in Southington. It was like a 2 hour class, and I think that class started like right when I signed on as a real estate agent, and I used to drive out there every Wednesday night, sit in this class, for however long it was, 2 hours, I think. And I did this every Wednesday night for like 3 years. And I just listened, I wanted to learn every single thing I could about prospecting and just like how, again, anything I could do to find business. Um, so that was like a pretty big deal there. I guess just like listening to people who had success with it, and learning. I think that's like the key, learning. Everyone wants to just jump right into hopping on the phone and dialing and making the calls, but you have to really understand what to say, how to say it, um, and from there, you can set appointments and take listings. And I think that that's the easiest way for somebody to go from zero to something. And so that's what I did because, I definitely, knew a lot of people in terms of like when I started. But at the end of the day, why is somebody going to hire you to sell what is more than likely their, most prized possession? Um, and so, yeah, you got to figure out how to do that. And at the time, the market was a little different. There were homes that would expire, and that's kind of how I began. Actually, the first one that I ever did, I got maybe 3 weeks after I started. It was an expired listing, but it was somebody that I knew, it was a friend of mine's parents who was struggling to sell their house, and I approached them, and I basically just said, "Just give me a chance. I won't let you down." And that was huge for me to get a listing like so quickly. And I knew nothing. I was just pretending like I did, and it took a few months to get it sold. I was doing an open house every week. Um, And so that was kind of like, again, it was expired. I had to go out of my comfort zone to contact them and say like, hey, I know I'm your son's friend, but I'm also a real estate agent now. And so anyways, that's where it began. And then from there, I was just doing it. And again, like, there was I put a lot of time and effort into practicing and figuring out what to say, and what worked, what didn't work, and you kind of learn. I definitely learned that the hard way. You get the phone slammed on you. It's brutal, it's totally brutal. And there's this like major mindset challenge behind, you know, you get yourself charged up in the morning, you're ready to go, you hop on the phone, the phone's ringing, person answers, you start going, and they scream at you, and you're like, I'm done for the day. I'm done. Like I have many, many days like that. But anyways, yeah, that's
What
kind of where it.
can I
Go ahead.
just ask you? Because I think a lot
Sure.
of people are at the point where, okay, I'm making the calls, and some of the people aren't on this call right now, but they will listen to the recording. What changed where you would actually have conversations? Was it the scripts? Did the scripts really, is that what you did? Did you deviate from
Yeah.
the scripts? I know you used Mike Ferry's scripts, which the expired script is a great script.
For
So,
sure, for sure. Yeah, definitely. You definitely want to use a script, I would say. I will be completely honest. I am not a 100% stick to the exact script person. And, Mike Berry would tell you, you know, you shouldn't be changing the script, but I personally found something in that script that I didn't like. Um,
yes,
and that was the intro, basically,
right.
and so anyways, I kind of like I've always, paid attention to everything that Mike Terry has to say and does, but I also pay attention to some others as well,
Right.
including his son Tom.
Yep.
And so, anyways, yeah, I kind of did it my own way a little bit. I think
So
the
how
most
would you do
important,
it? How would you do it?
well, so before I get into that, I think one of the
Okay.
things I want to say is that I think the most important thing that anyone who is going to attempt to prospect needs to remember is you cannot sound like you're reading a script.
Right.
If you sound like you're reading a script, you're done.
Yep.
You might as well not even make the calls. You need to sound authentic, and you need to practice, and you need to find however you want to do it. You could practice in your car by yourself. While you can get a partner, you can get multiple partners. Whatever you need to do, I would suggest doing it all. You should practice for a month before you even start dialing if you're serious about it, because that's the thing. Once you start dialing, you're gonna, you have to, you just have to be sharp. You have to know, and you just can't sound like you're reading a script. You have to sound like you're talking, you know? And, and then I think the other thing I would say is that it's very easy to psych yourself out of doing things. I do it all the time. You'll start looking at a whole like a property you're thinking about calling, you'll make up a whole story in your head about why you shouldn't make the call. Like you've already figured out oh, they're probably gonna relist it with their agent, and it was what so that would be the other piece of advice I would give is to not psych yourself out of it. Um, and and then I would also say just take it once you start doing it one at a time, one at a time. It's very I'm all about and I still I mean in terms of anything with my business, I'm trying to just simplify because when I give myself simple goals, I can make them happen. When I give myself these big overwhelming goals, I get overwhelmed and I don't want to do any. And
Ah, I
I think
love that.
I think that is that's been really huge for me. I think that people, when they think about prospecting or frankly just doing anything, they start thinking about these big numbers. I've heard so many agents I've heard agents be like, yeah, I'm going to be a real estate agent, and I got the scripts, and I'm prospecting, and I'm going to get 50 listings this year. And it's like you should learn how to sell five before you worry about how you're going to sell 50. Um, or frankly, sometimes you hear people saying that you're like, you got to figure out how to sell one before you're going to sell. And so I think that's a big thing too, is kind of simplifying it. Don't If you're going to go into this, whether it's expired or for sale by owner, or anything, calling your sphere, looking for business, doing just listed, just sold calls, whichever one you want to try. I would pick one and I would become an expert at that. And and I would just go one at a time. Your goal is to get one. When you figure out how to do one, then you can figure out how to do two. And you can kind of go from there. And right now, like, we're in this like totally different market. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm just finishing my 10th year. Um, Listings, like, I know they don't actually, but they like kind of sell themselves. And it's like there's not as much, expired opportunity, though there is. And there's, you can look at canceled, or with, yeah, canceled listings, just anything that somebody was trying to sell that it didn't ultimately work out. Um, the landscape's different. But, in recent years, I've had some success with for sale by owners. That's probably my favorite one to go after, because you know that they want to sell. Um, Pretty much, like, that the only thing that the only objection you have is money, and whether that's commission or the price, like, it all really just boils down to their net. So you just have to know how to explain to somebody that, like, what you can bring to the table. And most of the time, if you know what I mean, if you know how to go about it, they usually are just misinformed into thinking that they're, saving, whatever, 2.5, 3%, when they're really, I was just like, nationwide for sale by owners, I think the last time I heard, sell for 17% less. Well, why would you forfeit 17%, over a 6% commission? That doesn't make any sense. And even
Right.
something, just saying something as simple as that to someone is eye opening, and they're like, "Wait, what?" And then you can explain to them. You're like, "Oh, and by the way, I'm going to do all the work for you. You don't have to talk to anyone anymore." And so that's been one that I think is a good avenue for people to go after, um, in current, you know, times. So.
I love that. So, well, I love to simplify and take one thing at a time, and don't start making calls until you know what you're going to say. So a lot of it is what you're going to say, and a lot of your business now isn't just cold calling, FISBOs, expireds. It's also people you know. But there must be whenever I hear your name come up, it's like he really knows what he's doing. Like you have this persona among the people in leadership that I talk to, where everyone knows that you know how to solve problems, you know what you're doing. So in your 10 years, you've learned a lot, and you're doing something. So in the beginning, one thing I wanted to know was, in the beginning, it was a struggle. I remember the struggle, but you got over the hump, and then you started riding your bike. There were no more training wheels. It just started working. What did
Yeah.
that feel like?
Um, wow, what a great question. I think that I, I'm trying to think of how to answer that. I remember my first year doing this. I like when I pretty much dove all in from the beginning, but like the first like 6 months, I was definitely like I wasn't like really, really full time. In my first year of doing this, I did 6 deals, and they were all expireds. Um, and I was like really proud of that. I don't know if anyone like, someone
That's
might hear six
great.
deals, like, that's like not a big deal, like, but that was a huge deal to me. Um, and, I was like so proud of that. And then I turned six into 13. And then, it just kind of grew from there. I think 13 went to like, 18 and then like 22. And it took about January 1, 2016 was when I started. Like that was the day that I activated my license. So I remember in 2020 was the year that I really felt like everything like really, really clicked. Like my business doubled that year from the year before. And I remember thinking like, wow, it's all really coming together, like the the building and whatnot. Um, what else? Sorry, can I don't know if I just got off track, Jody. Sorry.
No, that was totally
Um,
what I wanted to know. So your first six were expireds, and then you just started
yeah,
leveraging opportunity after that.
yeah. So, and I will say some of those, like there was an agent at the time. So, there was an agent with our company who was kind of like, I had developed a friendship and like with, and we, would like role play, kind of work together on some stuff. And he had some listings of his that were about to expire, like not all at the same time, but like over time. So like we kind of made this whole plan where it was like, all right, you're gonna prospect them, and like the basically what we're gonna do, basically like I came on board and was like, hey, I'm going to take this listing. I'm going to give it a whole fresh new perspective, and we're going to start over. We're going to work on it together. We're going to co-list it, and we kind of use this as a way to get them back on board. And we got them all sold. So I must have just had the magic touch or something. I'm just kidding, but that was like really great for both of us because for him he was able to get his listing sold, and for me there were opportunities. I just like and still to this day I don't turn down if things make sense. I don't turn down an opportunity. I don't care about like anyone who's turning down opportunity because they think the compensation isn't enough or something like that is foolish. Because these are seeds that we're planting and they're going to grow. And like I have like I have a couple stories that one story that I could tell you of um, an opportunity that nobody wanted to take that I took that has that was in 2020 that I wrote these down to this day is almost through nine transactions.
Yeah, tell that story. That is such a good story.
I actually have two, but I'll start with that one. So yeah, in 2020, I connected with this person, and it was referred to me by an agent. And basically, the story that I had gotten was like, "Hey, do you want to talk to this guy? He's looking to sell a house. He's already interviewed like five or six agents, hasn't liked any of them. He's got a lot of questions. He's kind of a pain in the ass. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Of course I want it. Yes." So anyway, so I spoke with this gentleman. We had a great conversation. I don't know what five or six agents before me. I don't know how they found a way to mess this up, but basically, it was during the pandemic. I remember. So we were talking on the phone before we met in person. We were on the phone for about an hour and a half. By the end of that phone call, he said, "I can already tell I've got my guy." So I met with him. I listed his property. Um, at the most, at like he took my hand and had some blind faith with me and just trusted like my process, which is something that I always talk with my clients about. But we listed it and we sold it $20,000 higher than he thought he could ever get. Um, because he trusted my number, which was a lower number than any of these other people that he had, interviewed, I guess. Okay. So we got it sold. The buyer I also represented. So in doing this, I basically got contacted by somebody who was like, I have to have this house. I'm a cash buyer. I will do whatever I need to do to win it. And so, like, long story short, I represented both sides. Okay, so that's two deals. So this
So
guy
wait,
then
wait.
moved.
You said he trusted your process.
Yeah, Yeah,
What does that mean?
in terms of like pricing the home
Pricing?
attractively.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, you know, basically like everyone. This is like such a simple like situation with this guy, but like, you know, like any if you evaluated this guy's home, you would have said it was worth like 205, 210. All I did was put it at 199 and I sold it for 220, which again, like, you know, it's 20k over ask on a $200,000 purchase. It's kind of a big deal.
Mm.
You know, this house is probably worth like, you know, 350 or more now. This was in 2020 before the market went crazy. Um, so again, like it wasn't that crazy, but like, you know, I'm a firm believer of if you think something is priced, you know, if you think something is like just over like a benchmark, you need to put it under that benchmark. You know, like if you think something's going to sell for 405, 410, it needs to be at 399. I'm very like extreme with that, but it always, I think it's very important. But
LJ,
anyways, does that make sense?
I have a question. You
Sure.
mentioned before when you were working with that other individual that he had expired and then you worked with him and you were able to sell them. Did you guys split the commission or
Yep.
okay,
That's right. Yep. 50
thank
50. Of
you.
course. Yep. Yep. Um, yeah. Okay. So we listed this guy's house. I got that, got it sold. Also represented the buyer. So now we just turned one deal into, you know, what we're, I'm calling them sides here, but we'll say two deals. Okay. This guy moves to Tennessee and that my client that I sold for, he moved to Tennessee. Um, and he was renting. Okay. He called me up about 6 or 7 months later and said, "Hey, I hate it here. I hate it here. I want to come back to Connecticut. I'm going to buy my forever house." And I said, "Great. Happy to help you with that." So I was his buyer agent for his purchase. Now he's shopping for, you know, $400,000 houses, right? So doubling the price we were just at. So I found him a home. And through doing this, I formed a relationship with his mother because she was, you know, kind of joining me on showings. All right. So that's the third deal. All right. The house that he buys. Now, this is a good story, but the I had met the sellers of this house throughout the process, and their agent, um, they were not thrilled with. We'll just leave it at that. They happened to be working with an attorney that I do a lot of business with, and they had gone to their attorney sometime towards the end of our deal and said, "We are not happy with our agent. We're not having success getting the house that, you know, winning any offers." And he said to them, he said, "Well, you know, the guy who represents your buyers, I do a lot with, like, I'd highly recommend you, you know, interview him." And so, like, the day before the closing, they reached out to me and they said, "Hey, basically, like, we're firing our agent. You know, thank you for selling our house. We'd like to talk to you about, you know, working with us on our purchase." So I said, "Of course, like I'd love to." All right. So now we're up to the fourth deal. So now I start helping them buy their house. And now they're looking at a price range that's double that. So we're looking at $800,000 houses now. All right. And you know, so around that point. I ended up selling them something that was around like seven. Okay. So that's four deals. Um, fifth deal, his mother, who I had formed a relationship with in helping him buy had a home to has a home to sell. She has a brother with a home to sell, and she's going to buy something. So those three things are all like currently like in the works. Okay, this is just like a side part of this little tree. So that's three deals there. Okay, so now we're up to seven
Mm.
potential. Um, the people who I sold the $700,000 house to have two kids who are both looking at property, so that's two more. All right, these five potentials are all currently in the works. Okay, and then I have a listing that's coming on the market tomorrow. That was from a referral from this guy. And then this guy who started this whole thing is going to now downsize and buy something smaller in the next year or two. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 potential deals have now come from
Wow,
this, hey, do you want to deal with this difficult guy phone call?
awesome.
That is, I love it. So
Yeah.
what do you think? That is amazing. And I've talked to so many people with similar stories. In fact, myself, I have a similar story. So I think it is random, and they do say that you feel lucky, but do you think that that luck comes from maybe returning your phone calls, getting there on time, knowing the market? Like, what do you attribute the connection when people say, okay, I like your process. Like you got him to believe in you and then you delivered. So how do you do that?
I just want to make sure I understand. How do I get them to see things my way?
Yep.
Yeah, by putting together a presentation that is full of nothing but facts that lead up to that like plan. So like, I will, show like I'm like, I'll analyze. I go into my listing appointments with, like I know all the comps. I know the average sales price per square foot in the town. I basically have a roadmap of the conversation that I'm going to have with them to explain to
Okay.
them like, hey, this is why your house is worth approximately this, and we are going to put it at this, and we are going to do this, and this, and that's going to help us get to here. And so, like, there's really no like, there's really nothing to argue about. It's
But you have
it's
it
all
thought out
it's all
ahead of time.
facts.
You're
Yeah,
organized. You know what you're talking about. You know the market. Obviously had the data to be able to say, if we list at this, it's going to sell for this. This is what we want to do.
you need to
So.
have the data. Yeah, the data is
And that
huge.
guy was not easy. Like he was sort of
No,
like, will you please help
super
him?
analytical. Yeah, super analytical. Um, wanted to just he just wanted to know, like, he just had a lot of questions, which is not a big deal. Like, that's normal. Like, this guy was
Yeah.
not a pain at all, like, at all. I mean, you should see the review that this guy wrote me. I can dig it up. But like, he just wanted he wanted a game plan. He wanted
Right.
like facts. He didn't want someone to show up and wing it, which is what so many people do. They wing it. If
Yeah.
you put to if you have a plan that works, um, and you have the information and you show all of this to somebody, there's nothing for them to debate. I mean,
Right.
it's all facts. If they don't agree with it, then I know that it's probably something that I need to walk away from.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of the reviews, tell us about that.
Yeah, reviews. Yeah. So that was like from the get-go. I my 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 thought process was, like, if I can obtain, reviews and create this presence, then, like, if I get enough great reviews, eventually I will become undeniable, was the thought, right? And so you do a deal, you help somebody out, you give it 150%. And when they say thank you at the end, you ask them if they'd be willing to share. I literally say, I'm like, well, I hope you feel like you had an excellent experience, and it would mean the world to me if you would be willing to, fill out a survey and share that with the world. And it requires effort. Like, people don't want to have to, go out of their way to do anything. But
Right.
if you give them your all, they will. If you, and you ask, they will. So yeah, one by one, I just kept plugging away, stacking, stacking, stacking. And it's gotten to the point where, I have a pretty large stack, and it's more than pretty much everybody. I
How
don't know.
many?
It's 165 right now.
Oh, wow.
And I don't, I mean, there's some people that probably, that have more, but it took me 10 years to get there.
Hmm.
And it's been huge, because a lot comes with that. It's not just like, telling somebody how many reviews you have, like, is probably not really going to matter too much. But when people are looking for their agents online, right? I mean, we know that, like, almost everybody knows a realtor somehow, right? But if you don't, or if you want to interview more than, the one, you're either going to talk to a friend or someone you trust, or maybe you're going to go to some of these go-to websites like realtor.com, Zillow, whatever, Google Business. And I started realizing, like, hey, if I get enough of these things, like, I'm going to come up on the searches. And so, like, that's kind of like one thing that's been really huge for me. I come up as like the highest rated on realtor.com, like,
Nice.
pretty much everywhere in Connecticut.
So
And
that was a strategy that you like knew I'm going to do this. So
it was just
because
it
I
was a thought. It was a thought. I was like, like, you know, I'm just gonna keep plugging at this, and, like, it is exhausting. It's totally exhausting. You got to be so committed, because, like, listen, I have deals that I close where I'm like, I don't have it in me to go back to this person and say, hey, can you do this for me? For whatever reason, one reason or another. But it's just like one thing that I've made a priority. Treating people, like, again, someone said this to me, like, really early on. If you do a good job for someone, they'll tell two people. If you do a bad job for someone, they'll tell 10.
Wow.
And so, like, that was really just like, the idea is, that, I just think that you can extract business from every single piece of business that you do. So, like, anytime you take a listing, you should be able to pull a buyer out of that listing, or pull another listing out of that listing, and rinse and repeat, and rinse and repeat. And if you're not doing that, then you're missing something. You're not doing something right. I'm not saying this is going to happen on every listing, but, like, you can, like, open houses is a great thing, right? You can use an open house for all different sorts of things. You can use them to meet buyers. You can also use them to meet neighbors, take listings. Um, you can just simply use them to generate some hype on your listing to have a better result for your seller, so that your sale is more impressive to anyone who knows them, the neighborhood, and then you promote that. There's, like, so many different ways to take one piece of business you have and to turn it into more. Um, I mean, I could talk about that for hours,
that's great.
but there's just, like, and it can start with literally just, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. Um, you know, if you feel like you had a great experience, it would mean the world to me if you would share it with the world. And, I always tell people, like, hey, I'm going to be doing this forever. So, you got my number. If you know anyone that could use my help ever, call me. And, when they do, people do, you have to build, this is a relationship building business. It's not a sales business. It's a relationship building business.
Oh,
You
I
build
love that.
relationships. If you build relationships with people, and it's exhausting. Okay, it is exhausting. Everyone on here, like, I'm sure, is aware of that. Like, it's an exhausting process. but you have to do that. That's like part of what your job is. You have to build relationships. People need to trust you. They need to think about you when they think about real estate. You need to make it easy for them. You need to solve problems.
Can I ask you a
I
question?
love that.
For sure.
How many hours would you say you work a week? Do you work full time?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
About how
yeah.
many hours?
Oh, that's a great time or a great question. So at an absolute minimum, like I'm like I would say 40. Like I treat this like,
Okay.
any like I'm in the office every day. And that's like been something that I have done like from the start, just like even I'm not the type of like work from home person. Like, I need to get up, get dressed, go into my office, be ready to make it happen. And like, that habit was built from the get-go. So I've done that like from day one. That's like an automatic. Like if I'm not on appointments or, whatever, like then I'm in the office, like, and listen, like even it's crazy to think that you're gonna, if anyone shows up to, and works hard all day long, every day, good for you. Like I have days where like, I mean, I don't get, you know, tons of stuff done, but I'm here, I'm ready to go. And, there's like an energy that comes from that, like if you're sitting at home in your pajamas prospecting, you're just not ready to go. You're going to be like, yeah, well, we can meet tomorrow. And that shouldn't be that what you're doing. It should be like, oh, I can meet with you as soon as 4:30 today.
Mm.
um so I mean, that's been another big thing for me, just like showing up, being present. Like, I treat the job like I was going into the office of any other company, like I'm punching it. um so yeah.
Do you have
And then like, also I just want to also elaborate, like I have two young kids, um and a wife, so I have like plenty of additional responsibility. um so like I am very like pretty strict with my schedule. Like I'm out of here most days at 5 o'clock. um the time that I get to spend with my kids really is from there until they go to bed. So, you know, that's I'm pretty strict on that. Now I realize that people need nights and weekends sometimes, so I do work with people on that, but I qualify those like opportunities. Like I'm not going to meet some random person at 6:30 on a Monday night, just to see what happens. Like if it's worth it to do that, then I will go do that. But so I'm just like very like kind of strict with the schedule. And I think that like from the get-go, that was one thing that I like learned from people in our company. And like I guess like just like the Mike Ferry system, like and like Joe, specifically Joe's class I used to go to, like I think people are afraid to, you know, give them their hours. Like if somebody says, like you could, if somebody wants to see something at 3 o'clock on Sunday, you can simply say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not available on Sunday at 3 o'clock, but I'd be happy to show you Monday morning or Monday afternoon what's better for you. And that almost always is okay, no problem, sounds good. you know um like, and if you're gonna do a serious amount of real estate business, like you kind of have to operate that way. You're gonna go crazy. I'm not interested in running around all weekend showing houses. I'm not interested in doing that. I've done that, and I do that when it's necessary, but I try to make everyone work on my schedule, because I'm here all day, every day, Monday through Friday. If you want to work with me, this is what I can offer you. And again, like within reason and stuff, like I have clients who will be like, I'm sorry, I just can't. And I work around it. But, back to what you originally said, it's really hard for me to say, like, this is the amount of hours I work,
Mhm.
because I have plenty of nights where I put my kids to bed and I hop on the phone and I'm on the phone negotiating and sending offers and stuff. And I found myself this year a handful of times, like being like, I don't have enough time in the day to make sure that everybody's happy.
Mhm.
And I've been trying to do everything I can to manage that. But I've found myself, in a bind sometimes over that. So a lot of hours.
Do you have any assistants that help you?
So I have a transaction coordinator,
Okay.
Deb, and she's great. She helps me with like certain things that I need. But I do not have an assistant. No.
Okay.
Definitely something that like I've thought about maybe for like the future. But I've been very much so just trying to keep it I guess a one man show for now,
Okay. Thank you.
for as long as I can. Of course, yeah. Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else have any questions? I know Valeria is in our Naples office and they have a ton of expireds. So she is actually trying to get brave enough to go after that because she's been in the business a while, but just never did that. And she knows what she's doing. So she could easily do it.
Oh yeah. If you know what you're doing, you just gotta you just gotta
I
get
don't
one.
feel like
Once
I
you
know
get
what I'm doing, but thank you.
well, you just gotta, like I said, the best advice I would give you is, if you're gonna do that, is just one at a time. Don't think about it other than just one at a time.
All right,
Do one.
I do have a question because
Sure.
I talked to my manager and I was like, okay, these popped up and in like the past 10 days, and he said you don't want to call them right away because everyone's calling them and that we should wait.
That's a great excuse. No offense to your manager.
Right?
I
So
don't
I was
know.
like,
I don't know.
okay, so you're
Listen,
not going to help me.
that's kind of like what I meant earlier when I said, like, you can find, if you think about it too much, you will psych yourself out. You will talk yourself out. There's a million reasons not to do things. Um,
All right.
and
So you think I should just
yeah,
go
well,
for
I'll
it
tell
like
you what,
everybody else?
I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think you should do. I think that you should call them, and if you don't have any success getting through to them because they're getting so many calls,
Mm-hmm.
then follow back up with them in 7 or 10 days. Like,
Okay.
just waiting 10 days, assuming that everyone, because you got to realize the people that are also doing this are having these same negative thoughts that you are. And like, what if, let's say there's, 5 agents out there that are going to call and you didn't call and the other 4 psych themselves out of it too. You just never know.
Yeah.
You never know. And I would say just do it.
Okay.
What's the worst that happens? They tell you don't call me.
Exactly.
The worst thing that can happen is that they say, "Hey, we're not interested."
Right. And
And
then
then
if
and
they're
then you
still on the market, then I would call back.
well, listen, even if you call and they tell you that they're not interested, you can still call them back. They're not going to remember that you called. You know,
Okay.
they're,
Yeah.
they're not they're not going to really remember, like, like who
Who's
just
who?
called them. Like, yeah, they won't.
Mhm.
But I would make sure that you get really comfortable with what you're going to say
Right.
to them before you start doing it, because plenty of other people are calling and fumbling through a script, and that's going to make them hang up the phone. you
Right.
know
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
of course, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
All right, good.
This was so good. Anyone else have any questions? I know we could do this like all day.
yeah, I know I could talk about stuff like this
Very
all day.
good information, LJ.
Well, save some of the good stuff.
Sure.
He's doing a master class.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to
When?
come back for more.
Okay, great.
Next Thursday. Get
Oh,
your
okay.
questions ready.
All right.
You know what, Valeria? Come back with whatever objections you have and say, what do you say if they say this?
Okay, yeah, definitely. All right, thanks.
Yeah, of course, you're welcome. Remember this too, the objections never change. They're always the same. So there's like 5 different things that someone could say to object. You learn how to handle those and you'll be unstoppable. They literally never
I
change.
love it.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good.
As a matter of fact, that's what we're about to go over. So I am going to say thank you very, very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
And
Thank you.
we're going to stay on and we're actually going to talk about objections because that's one of the things that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, LJ, I appreciate you.
Yeah,
You're welcome to
for
stay
sure.
if you want to.
Thank
I
you so
actually
much.
got to get going, but yeah, if
Okay.
anyone has any questions or anything, like you can email me or call me anytime. So no worries.
Excellent.
Good luck,
All
everyone.
right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoy your children and your wife.
Thanks. Bye.